In July of the year 2025, there was a big surprise for many people in the United States and around the world. President Trump made an important announcement about medicine that is made in other countries and brought into the United States. Most medicine used by people in America comes from outside the country. The president said the government would put a new tax called a tariff on this imported medicine. This tax would be very, very high. It would be 200%. This means that for every dollar of medicine imported, there would be a $2 tax. So the final price could become much higher. President Trump said this big tax has a clear goal. He wants companies that make medicine to move their factories from other countries to the United States. The idea is to create many new jobs for American workers. This plan is part of his America First approach. The White House also said that making medicine in the U.S. is important for national security, so the country does not depend on other nations for health needs. However, this decision can affect everyone who needs medicine. It could change how people get health care and how much they pay for important drugs. If the cost of imported medicine goes up a lot, the price for patients might also rise significantly. Many people need medicine every day to live or stay healthy. This story will explore the effects of this big new tax on medicine. We will look at the plan's aim to help American jobs and security. But we will also see the possible problems, like the risk of medicine becoming much more expensive or even difficult to find for some people. This decision could change healthcare for everyone. This is the beginning of our story about this major change. 2. The big plan. The president's plan is to put a large tax on medicines brought into the country. This tax is called a tariff. The tariff is planned to be 200%. This is much higher than any tax before on medicines. The president said this high tax would start after some time. Companies that make medicine overseas have about 1 year or maybe a little longer to get ready. This time is like a grace period. During this year, they can build new factories in the United States. If they do this, their medicines made in the U.S. will not have the big tariff. The main goal of this plan is to help the United States. The president wants to create more jobs for American workers. By having drug companies build factories here, more people will have work. Also, the plan is about making the country safer. Right now, the U.S. gets many important medicines from other parts of the world. Some leaders think this is not safe for the country's health and defense. If there is a problem with another country, getting medicine could be difficult. Building factories at home means the country can make its own important medicines. The president mentioned that the tariff might be even higher for some nations. Countries like India and China are big makers of medicines that come to the U.S. The plan said that these countries and others in a group called BRICS might have to pay an extra 10% on top of the 200%. This is due to trade issues with those countries. So, the tax could be different for each country, depending on the situation. The government sent letters in the middle of July to tell everyone about the start date, which is set for August 1, 2025, for countries that do not make a special trade deal. This is a big change for the medicine world. 3. Why this is happening. This big plan for medicine comes from a main idea. It is called America First. This idea means the government wants to put the United States' needs first in many ways, especially in trade. This plan is part of the government's long-standing way of thinking about trade and helping American jobs. The White House has explained why this plan is happening now. They say that people in the United States pay much more money for their medicines than people in other countries do. The White House has shown information stating that Americans pay 3 or 4 times more for some drugs compared to other wealthy nations like the UK, Germany, or Japan. Officials in the government feel this situation is not fair to the United States. They believe that the high prices paid by Americans are helping other countries. They think that the U.S. is, in a way, paying for other countries to get their medicines at cheaper prices. This is seen as the U.S. helping pay for the health systems of other nations. The government calls this foreign free riding. So, this new plan with the big tax on imported medicine is a tool. The government wants to use this tool to make things change. The government wants to push other countries to pay more for the drugs they buy. Or they want drug companies to change where they make their medicine. The government hopes that this high tax will make drug companies decide to move their factories. They want these companies to build and open their factories in the United States instead of in other countries. This would create more jobs for people here. Another important reason for this plan is national security. The government thinks that depending too much on other countries for important medicines is risky. Making these drugs at home would make the United States safer. The government believes that making these taxes very high will make companies move their jobs and production back to the U.S. very quickly. This is part of the government's main idea to use trade taxes to help American businesses and workers. They think this plan is needed to lower high medicine costs for people in the country and make trade fairer for the United States. 4. The price for patients. The U.S. buys most of its important medicines from other countries. Experts say about 75% of the medicines people need come from outside the U.S. This includes many common drugs and also special ones for serious diseases. The new plan is to put a very high tax, a 200% tariff, on these medicines when they come into the country. This could make medicines cost a lot more for people in the U.S. It is a big change from the taxes now, which are much lower. Families might have to pay thousands of dollars more each year for the medicine they need. This extra cost comes because of the high tax on the imported drugs. Imagine needing medicine every month. This tax adds a lot to the total cost over a year. Even medicines that are usually cheap will cost more. These are called generic drugs. Many people use generic drugs because they are less expensive than brand name ones. They work the same way but cost less, helping many people save money on healthcare. Most generic drugs are made in other countries because it is cheaper to make them there. The new tax will make these cheap generic medicines much more expensive too. This means people who rely on generics to afford their treatment might suddenly face high prices. People who work with medicine and money are worried about what will happen. They say this high tax could lead to serious problems for patients. One big problem is that there might not be enough medicine for everyone who needs it. This is called a drug shortage. If companies in other countries have to pay a 200% tax to sell medicine in the US, some might decide it is too difficult or too expensive. They might stop selling their medicines in the US. This would mean hospitals, doctors, and pharmacies here would not get the medicine they need for their patients. For people who need medicine every day to stay healthy, like for diabetes or heart problems, this could be very bad. If medicines cost too much, some people might not be able to buy them at all. Experts say that people need necessary medicine to live or manage health problems well. So when the price goes up a lot, it really hurts sick people directly. The extra cost from the tax will not just stay with the companies that bring the medicine in. It will go through different parts of the healthcare system. Insurance companies will pay more for the medicines they cover. Hospitals will pay more to have medicines ready for patients. But in the end, much of this extra cost will likely go to the patients themselves. They might pay more when they buy their medicine at the pharmacy, or their health insurance might cost more each month. Some people in the US already find it hard to pay for their medicine now. They sometimes have to choose between buying medicine and buying food or paying bills. The new high tax could make this hard choice even harder for many families across the country. Doctors and groups that work with hospitals say they are very worried about their patients getting the medicine they need to stay healthy and out of the hospital. They warn that shortages and higher prices could stop people from getting important treatments they rely on. This plan, which aims to change where medicines are made, could first mean a much higher price and fewer choices for patients. It could make necessary medicine hard to afford and even hard to find for many people in the United States who need it most. 5. Drug companies react. Drug companies heard the big news about the new tax plan. These are the companies that make medicines for people. They are called pharmaceutical companies. They must decide what to do now. The new tax is very high for medicines that come from other countries. If they want to sell drugs in the US without this high tax, they need to make them inside the US. So some big companies started to make plans for this change. Companies like AstraZeneca, Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, Merck, and Novartis have said they will build more factories in America. They want to make their medicines in the United States. This could create jobs in the U.S., but building a large factory takes a long time. Experts who study this say it will take several years before these new plants are ready and working. This long building time creates a problem for the time before the new factories are finished. During this time, the high tax on imported drugs could start. If the tax starts, companies might have to pay much more to bring drugs into the U.S. At first, maybe the companies pay some of this extra cost. But for a long time, this higher cost will likely be passed to others. Manufacturers, insurance companies, hospitals, and finally, patients will pay more for medicines. So even if factories come later, drug prices could rise soon for people buying medicine or paying for their health insurance. There is also a big worry about drug shortages. Many common and cheaper medicines, called generic drugs, are often made outside the U.S. If it costs too much to import these important medicines because of the tax, companies might stop sending them to the U.S. Pharmacists might need to raise prices for these drugs. The American Society of Health System Pharmacists, a group for hospital pharmacists, warns that this could mean some important medicines are harder to find in the U.S. They say some foreign generic companies might stop selling in the U.S. market. This could lead to shortages for American patients who need these drugs. Hospitals are also worried about having enough medicine for sick people. Experts are also concerned about finding new medicines. Making new drugs takes a lot of money and hard work, called research and development or innovation. When trade rules change a lot and quickly, it can make things difficult and risky for companies. This could hurt the research for new treatments and cures. It might be harder or slower to find new medicines in the future. Drug companies are changing their plans, but the change is slow. The time before the changes are finished might be difficult for medicine costs and how easy it is to get drugs. 6. The world pushes back. Countries around the world heard about the new plan. Many were not happy. They thought the big tax on medicines was a bad idea. The European Union, a group of many countries in Europe, said they were very worried. They said that medicines are different from other products. Usually, countries do not put high taxes on medicines even when they have trade problems. They felt that medicines should be a special case because people need them to be healthy. Australia, a country far away but a friend to the United States, was also worried. Officials in Australia asked the United States for more information quickly. Australia sells some medicines to the United States. The government there said they would work to help their companies that make medicine. Two big countries that make a lot of medicine for the world are India and China. They were very concerned about the new tax. The plan meant that medicines from India and China could have an even bigger tax than from other places. India, China, and other countries in a group called BRICS said that these taxes were not fair. They warned that they might put their own taxes on goods from the United States. Groups that work for global health also spoke out. The World Health Organization, a very important health group for all countries, has said for a long time that taxes on medicine hurt sick people. They warned that this new tax could make it harder for people everywhere, not just in the United States, to get the medicines they need. These groups said that the plan could stop poor countries from getting necessary drugs at lower prices. So, while the United States government made its plan, the rest of the world was showing that they did not agree. They saw the plan as a danger to global health and trade peace. 7. The fight at home. In the United States, the new plan for medicine caused different reactions. People and politicians had many discussions. Some politicians thought the plan was a good idea. They supported it because they believed it would help America first. They said it would bring back jobs by making companies build factories in the U.S. They felt that in the future, this would help lower the price of medicine, because more would be made at home. They argued that Americans paid too much compared to people in other countries for a long time. But many other politicians and groups were against the plan. They were very worried about patients. They said putting a big tax on imported medicine would make it cost much, much more right now. This would hurt people who need important medicine every day. They believed it would be very hard for some people to pay the new higher prices. The stock market showed that companies felt uncertain. After the government announced the high tax, the value of drug company stocks went down. This meant that investors were worried about the future of these companies and the medicine market. Hospitals and insurance companies were also very concerned. Hospitals buy a lot of medicine for patients. Insurance companies help people pay for their medicine bills. Both groups knew that a high tax on imported medicine would make their costs much higher. They worried about how they would pay for these big increases. They started preparing for problems like higher costs and possible shortages of needed drugs. They were thinking about how to make sure patients could still get the medicine they needed, even with the new prices and rules. So, in the U.S., there was a big fight about the plan. People had different ideas about whether it would help or hurt. Some hoped for a better future with more jobs and lower prices eventually, while others feared serious problems for sick people immediately. The debate was strong across the country. 8. What happens next? It is late July in the year 2025. The situation with medicine taxes is still changing quickly. Many people and countries are watching closely. Countries are talking to the government. They want to make special agreements. These agreements could help them avoid the very high taxes on their medicines. Trade people from Europe, Asia, and North America are working hard. There are also questions about the new plan. Some people think it is not allowed by law. They wonder if taxes on medicine are legal under big trade rules. People are asking if this plan is right for health and safety. The main problem is clear. The government wants to bring jobs back to the country, but this plan might make medicine cost much more money. It is hard to do both things at the same time. Nobody knows for sure what the final result will be. The future is not certain. Will medicine prices go up a lot? Will companies build many new factories? Will countries make deals? What do you think will happen with the cost of medicine?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.